From the first age until now, our Creator, Allah, has made suggestions to us humans through various intermediaries according to the conditions of the time. He wished that Adam's offspring would reach the best possible state. The history of the world has unfortunately always been biased, even if I was to do the same. Each power and community interpreted events in their own interests. We humans are already in psychology. Since we are very prone to the so-called mirroring situation, we very quickly adopt views that are in line with our own ethnic or religious views and thoughts. It is obvious that this is far from analytical thinking. Doesn't that make us, then, some kind of animal-like creature that does not act with its intellect but acts with its emotions? Whether you believe in the Creator or not does not change this. The existence of the Creator. Questioning people mostly target other Muslims, followed by Christianity and Judaism. It does not criticize any philosophical belief that worships Mother Nature. I think the reason is pretty obvious. These people actually refuse to be under the rule of a single entity because of their inner self, that is, their ego. Being free is essential to him. Here's this one-sided open mind. He does not want to understand the advice of the messengers sent by Allah, who are within the framework of the understanding of Islam. Being an atheist is one thing, being anti-religious is quite another. If they target the personal mistakes of many people within the framework of their minds, these enemies of religion will agree with me, but they criticize with a cunning language that does not reflect the truth at all. One of them was Ernest Renan. Ernest Renan was born in France in 1823. He grew up in a family that focused on religion and turned to be a priest. In his childhood, he first studied religion in Catholic schools, then philosophy and Eastern. He was interested in their language. At the end of the education process, that he started to become a clergyman with the influence of his mother, he brought science to the fore. He wrote many works in the field of history of religions, the history of Christianity and Hertz. He did research on the nature of Jesus, but was excommunicated by the church because of his ideas on these issues. He was able to print his book L'Avenir de la Science, The Future of Science, which he wrote at the age of 25, close to his death, because he was afraid of reactions. His views on language and civilization have turned into a racist approach over time. There were also those who defined his mentality as positivist in general. He went to Lebanon for a while and made archaeological excavations there. He was also interested in holy places. Renan is not an Orientalist who has worked directly on the Quran, Hadith, and Seer. He was more interested in philosophy and did his doctorate on Ibn Rushd, d.595/1198. Averroes, on the other hand, was one of the mystic thinkers, like the peripatetic movement he is known for. I left a link from Turkish sources for those who want it. He also focused on arts and sciences and specialized in Eastern languages. Hertz. He is at odds with the church because of his views on the attributes of Jesus. Although he conveyed his views on Islam, Muslims and Arabs in his books, especially in the Sorbonne University on March 29, 1883, he stated that Islam hinders science. The conference titled L'Islamisme et la Science/Islam and Science, which was built on the thesis, caused great reactions. Although the main topic of this conference is the relationship between Islam and science, when read carefully, the Orientalists of Renan, who are his contemporaries and accepted as the authority in Europe on Islamic issues, Islam is the religion of the sword, against science and philosophy, conquests or spoils. Its purpose, sainted is seen that the attitudes of the Prophet Muhammad changed in the opposite direction with the migration and paralleled his basic claims. Renan's speech contains many inconsistencies. Some of them were also put forward by Namik Kemal. However, there are also issues that do not attract Kemal's attention. For example, Islamic civilization. Translation activities constitute an important part of its transfer to the West. One of the famous translators who mediated this was the African Constantine. Renan, speaking of him, he made a definition such as, because he received a Muslim education, he is very superior in terms of knowledge compared to his time and homeland. These statements of Renan completely contradict the main idea of the conference. Later, when talking about the translation activities led by Archbishop Raymond in Toledo, he used a phrase like he translated the most important works of Arab science into Latin. Right after, he used completely contradictory statements such as the object called Arab science disappeared as soon as it inoculated its seed in the West. Look at the reason for this from above. He described it as things that do not benefit the progress of humanity no longer have the right to life. We can easily say that he is one of the fathers of the Islam equals terror claims, which are tried to be kept alive in both intellectual and social environments in the West today. In his own words, if Renan, who set out to save history from destruction, actually destroyed it, and the nature of Namik Kemal's answers on this subject, only Renan, it will be easier to understand not the mutafanamacy but the background of today's debates on Islam and the West. Moreover, another approach of Renan, which is far from objectivity, is about manuscripts. According to him, the original copies in which Greek thought could be transferred to the West without the need for incomplete Arabic translations were damaged in the Crusaders' raid on Istanbul in 1204. But the same Renan, the Mongols, and while talking about the works of Muslims destroyed by the Crusaders, he said that manuscripts of philosophy are destroyed and become rare without mentioning the real perpetrators. He tried to destroy the Muslims by showing the science of Islam as the work of Iranians, Christians, Jews, Hiranis, Ismailis, and Muslims whose consciences rebelled against their own religion. Thus, Renan, who ignored the Sunni majority and attributed the success to ethnic minorities and non-Muslims, later on the Tatar, meaning the Turks, and Berber races, whom Islam described as rude, harsh, and soulless. He claimed that he became increasingly corrupt when he fell into his hands. In summary, Ernest Renan has harmed not only Islam but also Christianity to some extent. In fact, let's admit that human beings, who were created inclined to believe by nature, could not help seeing their belief as a universal salvation recipe for all humanity, and could not help believing and believing. He considered it a religious duty to convey his teachings to other people and to help them find salvation and the right path. This situation has also remained valid for Christians and Muslims, who are followers of the last two divine religions. Christians carry out missionary activities in order to convey God's messages to the world of humanity. They considered it a sacred duty to institutionalize and fulfill this task properly. For Muslims, conveying Islam to people, that is, duly conveying it, is a Quranic duty. Although it is necessary to compare the preaching activity in Islam with missionary and Orientalist studies. Although it is not true, because of the provisions in the Quran and Sunnah such as conveying Islam to all humanity without forcing them to enter religion, being instrumental in their guidance, and enjoining good and forbidding evil. Muslims, Islam, Quran, and Hertz. They have worked to explain the life of Muhammad. In addition, the negative propaganda of missionaries and Orientalists about Islam and its prophet, and conducted studies in response to their publications. When the main goal of the missionaries is to make all people Christian, and the aim of the Muslims is to bring Islam to all humanity. Since the spread of Islam, the representatives of these two religions almost prove the superiority of their own belief and reject the religion, belief, and ideas of the other party. They have brought to life thousands of works in the type of claim, defense, and refutation. In this case, it actually includes the reasons for the situation I mentioned at the beginning. Ernest Renan. In 1863, his work, The Life of Jesus, was published, in which he took a relatively conservative stance and attempted to re-establish a rational way of thinking. The work in question is Renan's main work. It is the first volume of 8 volumes, History of the Origins of Christianity. Renan integrated the work in question with History of the People of Israel in the following years. I also recommend that you take a closer look at the content of such works. See you in the next videos. Bye bye.